Okay, guys, this is Mongolian Mindset, and today we have Joyce with us, and today we're going to be talking about the best way you can find your personality type. And we're going to systematically go through this and pick um, each person, and they can talk about what test they think is the best, what system they think is the best, what are other things that you could possibly do um, if you don't want to take a test or follow systems. We'll let Thomas go first.
Um, favorite tests. I mean, I guess to be honest, I'm really not a fan of tests. Mostly, I think that you can find your correct type on tests. But I think that a lot of people, they don't know themselves really well enough. Like when they take a test, or they don't understand that test itself, like how to answer the questions properly. So I think very often that leads to mistypes. And then you'll get a lot of people like online who they'll take a variety of different tests, or so on and so forth, and they'll get multiple different answers, and then they're just like completely lost, like, about what their type is. So yeah, I mean, I do think that certain tests possesses value, like the keys to cognition, which is Dario Nardi's assessment, which he's told me personally is, it's not intended as a type assessment tool. It's more about measuring functions, but it happens to have this other, I guess, it just happens to be good at measuring, assessing type, even though that's not its intention. Um, me personally, I've taken that test a few times, and I don't tend to get the right type on that test. I'd say overall, I think most people get the right type on that test. I have seen some people who don't type properly on that test. Like, I'm pretty sure Mercer gets intj on that test, even though
Every
you're
time.
entj. I've seen like infjs get infp, or vice versa. I think when I last time I took it, I got intp, or I got like istj. So it's yeah, it is very helpful, but I think that the way the questions are worded, I think a lot of people might struggle to actually like understand what they're being asked. So that's one of the problems I see with that test. I think in general with a lot of tests, like once you've been down the typology rabbit hole for like a period of time, whether that's a few months or a few years, you kind of know how to answer questions in a way to get the like the result that you want.
Mhm.
I think, or like it doesn't have to be your type. It could just be like whatever type you identify with. Like, oh, I'm really abstract, or I'm really caring. Like, you see yourself a certain way, and you could kind of just answer the questions in a way that you perceive yourself to get a type that's not your actual type. Um, and I'm not saying that people intentionally do it. I just think that, like I said before, people often, they don't understand themselves as that well. I think very few people actually are able to type themselves properly. Like, in my experience, I was able to type myself properly, but I was fortunate enough where the first test that I ever took, I got my correct type. I got, well, not the first type, not the test that first I ever took. The first one I ever took was 16 personalities, but that was a long time ago, before I even got into typology. A few years ago, I took this other test, kind of like MBTI, but not the actual official MBTI. But that was actually able to give me the correct type INTJ. And then then I looked into it further. I'm like, oh, well, actually, yeah, I do relate to this. Maybe there is something to typology. Whereas, years ago, how like 10, 15 years ago, when I took the 16 personalities, I got INTP, and I identified with some parts of it, but not enough of it to actually take it seriously, and that's why I just discarded it. Um, but yeah, I guess just on that note, yeah, I think that 16 personalities is a very mediocre test. I see a lot of people mistyping. A lot of people get INFJ. A lot of INFPs get INFJ. Just a lot of people in general. I've known a few people personally who are not INFJ who get INFJ on that test. So I definitely don't really put much value into the 16 personalities quiz. Um, yeah, I don't want to go on forever, but yeah, I think the other ones we'll bring up is like the second Orva. I think the second Orva is fairly good at measuring cognitive functions, which is, it's kind of similar to the keys to cognition test. But I think the way that the questions are phrased are probably easier for most people to understand. So I think if you actually take your time and go through the tests, like, and answering the questions in a way that reflects who you actually are, not who you believe yourself to be, I think that that test is actually pretty good at getting you to your type, or very close to your type. Just in my experience, that's what I've noticed. So,
Yeah.
but Yeah, if you guys want to say something, maybe we could circle back around.
Yeah, I'll say the keys to cognition, like you said, it's really good at measuring your functions. So for someone like myself, I'm an ENTJ, but I'm unconscious focused. So that can explain why when I take cognitive tests, that my cognitive functions will come out as INTJ. But yeah, I'm not an INTJ. I initiate way too much and I'm purely outcome. But I think it's a pretty good test. I think the test language kind of goes over people's head. I've had people take the test and they're like, yo, I don't understand what the question's asking. A lot of people ask me that. So I think it some to a degree needs to be dumbed down. But the test from Dario Nardi's site says it's about 75% accurate. And I think it's
That's true.
90% accurate into getting you like if you are a NT, NFSP or ST, S, whatever. Um, you get my point. I think it's ST and SJ or something. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, SPSJ.
Yeah. Okay, so it's got like a 90, I think 95% chance to get that right. So if you
Temperament, yeah.
get that, then you kind of know in the ballpark of where you're at. And then to a certain degree, at the bottom of the test, it'll tell you like every time I take the test, it says theorists. Okay, so theorists are going to be the NTs. So even from there, you can kind of like go, okay, well, I know I'm in the NT bracket and try to work back from there. Like, okay, do I fit INTP? Okay. Do I fit ENTP? Okay. Do I fit INTJ? Okay. No. Okay. Well, ENTJ. And then read the description on ENTJs. And he has a lot of links in there. So it's pretty good. Dario's an amazing person. I think overall the best way to find your type is interaction styles and temperament. Combined cognitive functions. It's the best way. It's not even close. I think you'll be able to consistently get your type every time, and you'll be consistently able to find other people's type, which is what you want to do. 16 personality test. I would probably say that damn thing's probably got like a 40% chance of getting your type right. When I took it, I got ENTJ. That was the first test I ever took. And it got my type right. But most people, but my best friend, she got INFJ and she was so stoked. And then I start doing more reading and I'm like, dude, you're not INFJ. And she was an INFP. But I think you just overall, I think there are other things you can do to find your type. I would highly recommend like sitting down with the experts in the field or picking up Linda Barron's material. Like that. And going through that, probably the best way. She's got other things like holistic versions to find your type with descriptions and whatnot. So those are pretty good as well. But yeah. Shelly, you ready?
Yeah.
Shelly has a very unique background on this because I found Shelly in a coffee house. And she was able, I will say this, Shelly was actually without any system, I would say probably got people typed right by probably around 80% of the time with literally nothing. I was like, this woman's gonna be so good at typing when she actually figures out the system. So that's how I met Shelly. So you want to tell them how you were able to find people's type?
Oh, well, so I initially took 16 personalities tests and got a ISTJ, and I read it and I was like, this sounds like my sister. This doesn't sound like me. And so I just dismissed it entirely. And my son had a teacher who had the class take a test online, and he had told him that he should or that people should answer questions and think of multiple situations. And so I retook the test and then got INTJ. And I think I actually went to like it was geez, I can't remember the my personality.com or something test. I can't remember. It wasn't 16 personalities when I got INTJ, but I found another one, the second Orva test, and when I tell people to answer the questions, thinking of multiple different scenarios, people get their type back fairly accurate on that test. But as far as my ability to type people, I think that was just really intuitive. I mean, I read about the different personality types, and the I can just type people. I don't know. I can't really explain it. I mean, I read the different personality types, and like I could just see it. Like when I meet people, it just kind of comes to me, and I don't really have a very good explanation for how that is or why that is.
You think it's just kind of like pattern recognition, maybe?
Yeah.
Like you notice certain patterns, and
I mean, like I type after only reading, a limited amount of information. I was able to type my sister, her husband, my brothers, and my dad and my mother all correctly. And so I had my mother, actually, I had her take the tests and answer like for my father, because he had Alzheimer's at the time anyways. And she got her answering as if she were him. She got the same result that I did, that he was an intj. And my ex as well, I was able to type him. So, and that was just with, very, very limited information back then.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a pattern thing. You see, I don't know, you just, I guess, see things in people. But
Yeah.
So
Joyce, what do you think is great ways to find your type?
Yeah, so online tests are good for getting you hooked, or it's the gateway drug to get more people in the community, because it's a really fast way to get an immediate result, and it has a catchy factor because they have cute avatars and people are attracted to the appeal of, wow, I am this character that has a wand and a stick. So it's a good place to get people into it, to spark the curiosity for type. Now, they're not always that accurate, as we all were talking about. I think the most accurate cognitive function test out there is mistype investigators. And so it's created by an ISTJ who used to think he's an INTJ. And it is phenomenal, actually. It's just that cognitive function tests can be complicated to beginners. And so it's a barrier to entry because people are like, what is this? It's asking questions that are hard to relate to. And so in terms of dichotomy tests, they're easier for people to take, but they're less accurate than cognitive function tests. And so the official MBTI is a place where you can get a dichotomy test. And it has a 75% chance of getting your full 4-letter code right, and a 90% chance of getting 3 letters right and getting 1 off. So this is their claims. Now, the thing is, with dichotomy tests, they're not accounting for your cognition, and so then there's that downfall, but they're more catchy, except the official MBTI costs a lot. And so the free dichotomy test that's out there that is like the best out of the ones is John's personality test. It's just a simple test with 20 questions, and you don't have to expect it to get someone's type right, but it's simple, and so people are willing to take it. And then you have the test that Linda Behrens made. So it actually accounts for interaction styles and temperament, I believe. It's called Personality Wizard. And so she made it with a bunch of professionals in the field. Now, Linda Behrens, who created the interaction styles, is highly against any form of testing, just because she doesn't believe in having anyone else type you except yourself. So Linda's like, everything can suggest something or give you a data point, but you should be the ultimate person who types yourself. And it should be based off of multiple factors. Everything is just a little thing to look at. And so with Personality Wizard, it's a really good test, but people don't like to take it because you have to give your email address first. And everyone in today's society likes things as easy as possible. So I've tried to send personality wizard to people, but they're like, oh, I have to give my email. I'm not going to take this test. So that's why 16 personalities has such an appeal, because it's so user friendly in comparison to other tests, even if it's wildly inaccurate. So 16 personalities is known for its introvert and intuitive bias. So it types everyone as an INFJ, INFP, INTP, and INTJ.
Yeah. I agree with that. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know Linda had an actual test. That's actually pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I think what you were explaining there was that Linda has a more of an informative approach where they give you information and allow you to make the decision. But direct people are just gonna tell you, you know. But she really is enthusiastic about like people like figuring it out for themselves. But me personally, I think people can't figure it out. I think sometimes because she's an INTP, she kind of projects that everybody should be very smart like her, okay, or that they all have very high TI or whatnot.
The
But
TI, yeah.
the thing is that to actually be able to find your type, you're gonna have to do a lot of work. And we all know that people don't want to do a lot of work. Like it is what it is. Everybody just wants to find the easiest way to do something. So they're not going to read 3, 4, 5 books to find their type. They're going to find a shortcut. It just is what it is. But I do feel like everyone goes on some type of journey to find their type, regardless of who they are. For myself, I knew I was ENTJ first, but then I start moving around, and then you join like a different community, and then people say, "No, man, you're an INTJ," and then you're like, "Well, sometimes I do feel introverted from time to time." And then you like what the hell? Then you kind of go back and forth, and you're like, well, shit, I could be INTJ. Well, I could be, and then you ultimately have to understand the system of Linda Barron's, and you can figure out your type. The biggest thing would be progression versus outcome. Okay.
Yeah.
Progression versus outcome. That is a very hard thing for people to grasp. It was a very hard thing for myself to grasp. I know you guys watch my videos and stuff, and it sounds very easy because I've explained it, but it was a very difficult thing to understand at first. But understanding that outcome is people that look at the end product, and they pretty much talk about it. While as in progression types, if you've seen with Shelley and Thomas, they kind of went through a journey when they started. Like Shelley was like, well, I did this first and I went here and I went there, and it was like a journey for her. But that was a very tough thing to grasp. But yeah. Any other suggestions you guys got?
Yeah, some ways to help figure out your type is to look at yourself in your late teens or your early adulthood. Because if you are looking at yourself at a later age, you might have individuated to the point where it's more difficult to discern your functions. So if it's too far down the road, it becomes difficult because, wow, as an ENTJ, you might have developed a little bit more your SE and your FI, and so everything becomes glommed up. And so people who are seniors trying to figure out their type, those are the most difficult cases because they're so evened out. And so you can either ask someone across their entire life how they've been, or specifically in late teens or early adulthood. That works too. Now, another way to help someone figure out their type is to look at the inferior function. So that's going to be the person's biggest tidal wave in their life, or just the biggest imbalance in terms of their dominant function is their hero function. So it's the function they use, the hammer they use in every situation to bring down every nail. And then you have the aspirational function, which the more you double down on your dominant function, the more your aspirational function takes the hit. And so that imbalance is easier to see. And then another way to type people too is to look at, where are they balanced? Is it their thinking and feeling that is balanced, or is it their sense of intuition that's balanced in the middle too? So there are a lot of different ways. Interaction styles is a brilliant way to figure out someone's type. And so, of course, I'm a big advocate of Linda Barron's. And even knowing the order in which you relate to the interaction styles. So like, let's say in charge is your first preference, but get things going is your second. That tells you that you're most likely an extrovert because those are the two extroverted interaction styles and you relate the most to them. So it's extremely likely you're an E type. Whereas if you relate to behind the scenes and chart the course the most likely probably an introverted type, just based on, okay, you relate to the two most introverted types. So even if you don't know for sure what your interaction style is, or you don't know for sure what your temperament is, it helps narrow things down. So like, let's say you can't really tell if you're an NT or an NF. There are some INFJs who struggle. They're like, I relate very strongly to both these temperaments. Now that at least tells you that you're most likely an intuitive type if you're struggling between two intuitive temperaments. So even if you're not able to fully discern, it gives you points of discernment. So everything is a data point. And another way to type yourself too is to see how other people view you. So just as Thomas was saying, our own self-perception is flawed. So sometimes figuring out, oh, how does Mercer see Thomas? Or how does Shelley see Thomas? And then you hear, wow, you see me like that? I didn't know I was blunt or direct. I thought I wasn't. And so we learn new things by seeing how other people see us. Or you could even record yourself, which is the scariest thing ever because people hate the sound of their own voices. But you might be able to see yourself in a third person, whereas it'll give you more perspective because it'll give you that layer of detachment you need. Because there's a saying that if you're too close to the fire, then you can't really view the fire. So being able to see your own recording of yourself and then to ask yourself in a third person, how would I type this person if I was viewing this person detachedly? That's another way to also look at your type. And also having great resources like Linda Barron's, which you guys are big fans of, or there's a website called Practical Typing, and it's made by this ISTP and ISTJ, and they have the best articles on cognitive functions that are free out there. MBTI Notes is a okay website too to learn about the functions too. They're a pretty good Tumblr place. But yeah, Personality Hacker is a great place for resources on the types too. So just looking beyond the stereotypes, because people will look at behavioral stereotypes and be like, I don't have that behavior, or I'm not like that one person in my life that's this type, so I must not be that type. It's like, well, you could still be that type. It's just you're not that exact other person. Yeah. So people, they have these assumptions in their mind that make them automatically disregard certain types. And so a way of typing yourself correctly is to not be like, oh, my uncle's an ENTJ, so I must not be an ENTJ because I'm not like my uncle. Because I noticed that there's an immediate desire to disregard certain types based off of arbitrary reasons. So that's one. And having type practitioners help you, like myself or you guys, to give a third person perspective too. Because we're able to give them information on the theory they might have not been entirely aware of and how it relates back to their life and the stories that they provide to us too. So everything is a point where you can triangulate all of it to figure out, based on all of these factors, what is the most likely option.
Yeah. Like I said in the videos, just start with things that you know about yourself. Like if you're doing Linda Barron's system, okay, you can start by saying, okay, I know for a fact that I'm direct. Okay, if you know you're direct, that eliminates 8 types. Okay, so now you can work back from there. Like, all right, so what's the next thing that you know? Okay, you say, okay, I'm direct and I provide systems and structure to everything I do. Okay, and that means that you are 4 types. You're either STJ or a intj, so you kind of like work with what you know about yourself, like 100%. Like, I know this 100%, and then kind of work. You don't need to go to like I think a lot of people try to say, oh, am I abstract or not? That is a tough one for a lot of people to handle, because I've seen people that think they're abstract that are not abstract, and so that's one of the ones that kind of, unless it jumps out at you, we kind of don't really go to first. But the other things you can kind of like look at, like Okay, am I a TI user or a TE user? Okay, that eliminates types, so it is pretty tough, and I think a lot of people kind of sell dreams. They sell people dreams that, oh, this is 100% accurate, but you have to get to a certain skill level to be able to be accurate. I think there's an invisible time clock on people's head that you cannot see. For like people like me, Thomas, Shelley, Joyce, there's probably several hundred hours of typing that you guys just don't see. That's on our head. And there's a lot of people who have like 5 hours, and they'll be trying to tell people what to do in that. Just not gonna get you the results you want. And I think the best thing you can do is go towards the experts of the field. That means like the Linda Barons. I know it's gonna be tough to read some of the stuff, but if you want the best results, you're just gonna have to do that. The Dario Nardi, if you're a TE user, I highly recommend Dario Nardi's Magic Diamond. This book is amazing. I'm always talking good stuff about this book. I've said it to Dario Nardi, $1 million book. But for TE user, I feel like Dario literally explains that to like a 2-year-old. Okay, if you can't, like, it's very easy to grasp. Now, when you get into stuff like this, you may have to read a chapter, sit and reflect, read a chapter, sit and reflect, read a chapter, sit and reflect, okay? Because it's highly theoretical, and it's John Beebe, high TINNE. But anything you guys want to say, Thomas?
I can also bring up Dario Nardi's his other assessment, the one I took last summer, the Nardi personality indicator. I definitely recommend that. That one he typically charges for. He did, but basically that test, it goes based on temperaments and interaction styles. I don't really believe it got in functions, but based on it, it asks you not a ton of questions. Like I did. Maybe I'll talk about that as well. I did take the official MBTI online version, the $50 one. That was last summer as well. That one's like, it has like a crazy number of questions and it repeats itself a lot, which is like kind of annoying. Like that, it kept repeating similar questions. But the Nardi personality indicator, I think it wasn't like 20, 30 questions, something like that. But very, very quickly and efficiently able to narrow down your temperament and your interaction style, and then using like an algorithm or something, it's able to rank order like the likelihood of, are you NT, are you NF, are you like ST or SP, and then the same thing with your interaction style. I answered the questions as accurately as I can answer them, and it gave me INTJ is the most likely type. It gave me what do you call it, see it through or finisher is the most likely interaction style. NT is the most likely temperament. I believe it gave me behind the scenes or background as the second most likely interaction style. And then it also has it's called a correlation score or something. Mm-hmm. So my correlation score was 8, like an 8 out of a perfect 1, meaning that like, or it was like a consistency score, meaning that like if I was trying to be deceptive, like there's consistency would, I guess, would indicate that I wasn't being deceptive. I guess is what I'm trying to say. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, I'm the only person I know who took that test, but I find it to be a very accurate, very quick and efficient test. Whereas, like I was saying about the MBTI that I took, it's kind of draining to go through like what seems like 200 questions with a lot of repetition, and then like it'll ask you to pick between like a pairing of words, like something that's trying to determine abstract versus concrete, or something that's trying to.
Thomas, we can't hear you that much.
Like this.
I think you're covering your mic.
Hey, Thomas, I think you cover your mic. It's all good, bro.
How much did you miss?
Good amount. So,
I hear most of it, but then it got worse.
Yeah, Dario Nardi has Radiance House or something. That's the test you took that kind of incorporates interaction styles and cognitive functions, and it's pretty accurate. Right.
Well, it was called the Nardi personality indicator is what it was actually called. It's probably through Radiance House. That's like his website. So, but yeah, definitely recommend that.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Had a whole report. Thomas had a whole report. But go ahead, Joyce.
Yeah, and another resource for people who want to type themselves based on 8 function theory is this book called Projection and Personality Development via the 8 function model. It was proofread by John Beebe himself. So it's a book written by an ENFP called Carol Shoemate. And it's a very readable version of the 8 function model and how it specifically shows up for each type, and also how to identify certain preferences too. So
Where's that from?
a really good book. Yeah. Personality and
Projection and personality.
projection and personality. Yeah. Development via the 8 function model.
Should be pretty friendly from a TE user there.
It is. It has bullet points.
What's her name? What's her name?
Carol Shoemate.
Carol.
Yeah, so she has tables, she has bullet points because she knows it's really hard to understand. So
I think I seen her videos online where she was talking about children. And how is she the one who talks about like how functions change with age or whatnot?
she talks about Jungian concepts like projection. So Jung talks about how when we don't make the unconscious conscious, we end up letting it direct our life, and we'll call it fate. And so we'll put our biases out there unless we learn what they are. So she's a big Jungian. She coordinates the PhD program for Jungian psychology or something along the lines of that.
I'll definitely get that book. Any thing else you guys want to say when it comes to finding your type?
Well, maybe just have a question for Joyce as far as like because you do the official MBTI, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I guess like could you just give like a kind of like a somewhat concise breakdown of what does that measure? How does that work? Because that's goes based on letter dichotomies, right? It's not measuring cognition.
It gives you 5 facets for every letter dichotomy.
Okay.
And so with extroversion, there are 5 facets. Let me pull it up actually. If you give me a minute, you guys can talk.
Yeah, take your time. So I mean, in that sense, is it kind of like Big Five then? Because doesn't the Big Five have 5 facets per dichotomy basically?
It is, but it is a little bit different. So
okay.
Yeah. And there are some people in the type space who would argue that MBTI and the Big Five are similar tools too. So it is kind of like a Big Five test in a sense. So yeah, like for extroversion, there are 5 categories. Initiating, expressive, gregarious, active, enthusiastic for extroversion, and for introversion, it's more on the receiving, contained, intimate, reflective, quiet category. For the sensing category, it's measuring concreteness, realisticness, practicalness, experiential, traditional. Whereas for intuition, it's looking for more abstract, imaginative, conceptual, theoretical, and original. For thinking, it's searching for logical, reasonable, critical, questioning, tough in your answers. And feelings, looking for empathic, compassionate, accepting, accommodating, tender. And with judging, it's systematic, planful, scheduled, early starting, methodical. Perceiving is casual, open-ended, spontaneous, pressure prompted, and emergent. So the reason why I don't see it as an exact Big Five translation is that openness in the Big Five is related to both intuition and sensing, and also perceiving and judging. So the Big Five is like a mix of a few of the MBTI categories. Because like, let's say, for example, an ESTP and an ESFP will score high on openness on the Big Five, and they're not intuitive types, but it's measuring openness to experience too, which those 2 types are very open to trying out a lot of things because of the dominant extroverted sensing. And so there are a lot of categories in the Big Five that don't translate. If you look at agreeableness, there are a lot of INTPs who score really high on agreeableness, and that's because of their aspirational FE doesn't want to feel judged by other people. So because it's a sensitivity or a vulnerability, you'll have very agreeable INTPs. And as well, conscientiousness does not fully translate to JRP because you can have a lot of conscientious perceiving types, because you can learn conscientiousness. It's a behavioral trait that comes from nurture too, so it's not necessarily the same thing. Whereas what MBTI is looking for is, do you like to keep your options open until the last minute because you like to gather information and make the best decision possible? So whereas for the judging axis, it's the desire for closure. So they're measuring so when you score a J on the MBTI, your FE or TE are higher up. So what that means is that you see time as finite, and that you see the need to structure things to gain closure. And so there's a difference in how they define certain things. So there is overlap, but there's a lot of difference in the systems too.
That's interesting. And I also kind of do, because this is something like, Mercer and I talked about quite a bit recently. We just kind of wonder how much, how much nurture is going to be considered going forward in the future, and like, does MBTI really even account for nurture?
It does. So you can score out of preference on the MBTI, and so with an ESFJ, they might score ESTJ on the official MBTI, but the test autocorrects because it knows that a certain kind of ESFJ that's going through a certain kind of environment, whether it's a cultural context or just growing up in certain households, will score this way. They change your result back to what they believe your type to be. So there's an automatic calculation because they make room for the error. And they also say that you're not supposed to just give the MBTI test. You're supposed to give it and then tweak the result if something seems off. So you ask clarifying questions to see if the profile fits, and then you suggest adjacent types. So with Linda Behrens, if you talk with her, if she doesn't think you are the type that you say that you are, she'll suggest adjacent types. So from what you're telling me about yourself, you could be this adjacent type, that one or that one. Because like you said, Thomas, when you score wrong on certain tests, it's just by one letter dichotomy usually. And so if you had a practitioner or someone who's well-versed in type talk to you after, they might be able to make that additional tweak to get your full type right.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
I mean, it is pretty tough. I won't lie to you. Been a lot of reading, a lot of reading, a lot of like being an idiot and making mistakes. I mean, me and Tom, I talked to Thomas. I'm like, because I think out loud. Okay, so I'll be like, Thomas, what do you think about this? And Thomas like, bro, that shit don't make no sense. Okay, then I'll be like, okay, that shit's out of here. And then we kind of go down until we figure it out 100%. And it does take time, man. It does take time because it's very abstract principles. And I don't think when Jung wrote it, like I say, TI uses sometimes they use words that don't even like have the right. Like when you look up the definition of that word, it's not even the right way. It's like they see it a certain way, and then they put it there. But it's like you go look up the word, the actual definition of the word, and you're like, huh?
They redefine things basically, like in their own interpretation.
And it's like so sometimes you can get lost with like trying to figure those things out. So like for instance, I'll be like, Thomas, what do you think about this, man? I'm getting this. And then Thomas will be like, okay, yeah, that sounds right, man. And then we'll just keep going. But it is pretty tough. I mean, especially like when you're breaking down like John Beebe's work. It's not like spoon fed, like pretty easy. But
that's why you can read this book. It makes everything easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, there's also multiple ways to explain the same behavior. So whenever Mercer, you go to Thomas and you're like, is this true or not? Can you verify? You could either see that as Thomas being an NT and seeking precise accuracy, because NTs are actually known for wanting to get to the precise concept and they'll cut away anything that doesn't make sense. Or you could justify it as sixth thought introverted thinking, whereas in our shadow stack, our sixth function is actually the strongest out of our shadow functions. So there are many ways to justify a certain behavior, and they all work together. So you don't have to use just one lens.
Yeah. So I mean, once you figure out the 8 functions, you will notice that like the 5th spot is what people worry. So TI would be my nemesis slot. So I'll be worried. I'm kind of worried, like maybe I'm not right. So I'll go to someone like Thomas who has it. Thomas is kind of a shadow focused INTJ. So he's very strong with TI. So I'm like, Thomas, I'm kind of worried about this. And Thomas like, yeah, bro, that's right. You're good. You're good. Well, I'll go to Shelly. Shelly's also another shadow focus or unconscious focus INTJ. So they're very strong TI. And they'll be like, oh yeah, that's good, man. That's good. But like when you notice the eight functions, you notice where they worry. Like with INTJs, NE, like you can really send them kind of up the wall if they start getting paranoid. Like you could start like hitting that function. As in someone like myself who has in the 6th spot, I'm like, yo, bro, there's nothing to be paranoid about. What are you talking about? But you know, they on the other hand, like don't do anything kind of weird around a INJ because they get paranoid. That worry in the 5th spot.
I think it's a function that we don't have very control over. I mean, if I'm just to be honest, I don't know exactly how to explain it. Maybe Joyce would know how to explain it better, but I just feel like it's like the nemesis function is just always kind of running, and then if something just seems off to us, yeah, it could kind of send me up the wall. Like someone's behavior seems off, or it seems like people are like conspiring against me or something. It's like it'll just kind of like drive me up the wall. But I'm just my own personal opinion about myself is I don't feel like it's a function that I don't feel very competent at it, and I don't feel like I'm able to really control it very well.
Well, Thomas, we're secretly conspiring against you.
You're doing well because you didn't trigger my nemesis. So
yeah, like that nemesis, you can, man, I'm telling you, you can send an INTJ up a wall. You start doing like some or INFJ, you start like doing some erratic behaviors or whatnot. But I would recommend people finding the 8-function model because you can also find your type during that way. Because you can go through there and be like, okay, well, I seem to have this trickster. Okay, the trickster is the function that you're kind of unaware of, and it's a function where you're unaware of, and it's kind of like you are like completely oblivious to it to a degree. As in like the demon function is like a function you just don't even care about. Like you just don't care. Like FE for me, like generally speaking, I really don't care like how people feel. Like it just doesn't work for me in that aspect. As in like someone like Shelly, she probably doesn't care about internal sensations. Or like the past, right? Shelly, would that be correct?
Definitely not. I can ignore, like you just said that, and I was like, oh wow, I do feel hungry. Like I wouldn't even recognize it.
They don't even care, but like the trickster is kind of like you are unaware of it. It's like it's just there. Like for me, SI, there's been times where my friend has like wheeled me into like the hospital because I've been going and going and going and like working, going out partying, working, then doing like legs and stuff. And then you know what happened? Like my body shut down and like freaking my ISTP friend had to wheel me into a hospital, and I was in the hospital for 2 days. So it's like it's something like I'm like completely unaware of SI related things. As in like Thomas would be completely unaware of FE related things. Like sometimes Thomas would do something and he'd be like, bro, I didn't know, and I'm like, it's kind of like optimistic in a way where it's kind of like,
yeah.
Or you might smile at Thomas and he may not smile back.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'll just do my own thing. But the thing you have to be careful about with the trickster when it comes to type or people trying to type themselves is that people oftentimes they'll think that they're good at their trickster when they're actually not. I think sometimes people forget that component of the trickster function is that we often think that we are good at something that we're actually terrible at. I think that's something to keep in mind where I think if people are trying to type themselves or figure out someone, or I guess mainly when it comes to trying to type yourself, again what we were talking about earlier, but as far as like people's self knowledge or self awareness, that's one of the ways they could be lacking, and that's why it'd probably be better to try to kind of figure out your inferior function or maybe even your demon, because you at least have awareness of the demon. It's something that you ignore, but you're aware of it.
Don't care about it.
Yeah, and there's also a cool fact. So you know how people are like, how can someone wonder if they're an INFP or an INFJ? They have completely opposite cognitive functions, right? But actually their weakest functions are the same. So they both suck at SE and also TE. But one of them values it and the other one doesn't value it. So there is more overlap than people think among types that are completely opposite. So that's why typing can be so confusing for some people. But a great book to look at the cognitive functions with is The Building Blocks of Personality Type by Leona Hayes and Mark Hunziker. So it is such a concise TE bullet point breakdown of each of the functions in a way that anyone can understand, and it gets to the heart of the functions. Of course, not completely perfect, but no book is, but it's a darn good book. So I would say add it to your reading list if you haven't read this book before.
Yeah. Like we were saying, like with the trickster, like people do think they're really good at it. For instance, if you asked me about SI related things before, I would have said I'm pretty good at it. Like discipline and whatnot. Like dude, I go to the gym 5 days a week, you know. But then at the same time, I eat a whole bag of candy. You know, I would eat the whole bag of candy, like the entire bag. It's gone, like within 10 minutes. And I'm talking about, it doesn't matter how big the size of the bag of candy is, it just gets destroyed. So like when you look at it, you know, I kind of fooled myself into believing like, oh man, I'm so disciplined. Like I go to the gym 5 days a week. I'm doing this. And then when you like actually look at it, it's like, no, dude, you're terrible. Like you're not disciplined at all.
Yeah.
I think what it is, so I think what it is just being systematic, because you're so systematic, and it's very similar with me. We could be so systematic that people think that we're super disciplined, but we're actually not. Because I have a lot of people tell me that I'm super disciplined just because, you know, like I'm just very consistent with working out or with how, you know, with my diet or whatever. But it's really my self-discipline is, I think it's horrendous.
Yeah. I think that
like I could easily fall out of like a pattern. It's like, it's, you know, but it's just easier for me just easier for me, I guess, just to do this, you know, repeat things to keep things consistent.
I just think it just requires less energy, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Same food,
Kind of going like,
same thing with the whatever. It's like it just requires less energy, less thinking. Just like love it. Like it's just how I told people, I think I've told several people that like maybe if I didn't suck at everything, I wouldn't be so systematic. But because I've literally sucked at everything, I've had to become systematic with everything because like don't work. It just doesn't work unless I'm systematic. It just doesn't work. Like it just my life without systems would just be horrible. I'd be terrible at everything. So it's like I wonder like how much do we actually adopt based off like just life, you know? But I don't know. Because like my cousin, he's ESFP and he doesn't need systems. He does like his life is perfectly fine without it. He does great in things and he doesn't need it. You know, I'm like, I couldn't do it, you know. I just couldn't get the results that he gets without systems or even be in the same ballpark. That's what I say.
I mean, I relate with the same thing you guys are saying. Like, that's why I find it hard to like change things in life, just because I like have routines, and if I don't know, I guess you throw a wrench in it, it all falls apart. So, I like to keep things consistent.
Yeah, just keeps me like I don't even have to think. Like I don't even have to think. It's like, okay, this is what's happening. And it's just like same thing. Like Thomas didn't know. Cody knows like these are the times Mercer available every day, a month out, 2 months out, 5 months out. He could book something like a typing session 5 months out from now. And he knows exactly what times it is. 2, 3. 2, 3. It is never another time before that. It's always 2 or 3. He's like, Mercer's going out drinking. Okay, he's probably gonna wake up at like 12. And he'll be ready to type at 2 and 3 every time. Thursdays, okay, he's ready to type. He just got off work. He's off for the next 3 days. These are the times he's available. So it's just works. I don't know.
Yeah, so routines and structure is good for any type because it does make us function as human beings. I think what makes it different for introverted sensing types, so SJs, is that they need it to feel okay. So with SJs, they need to know the parameters or their role, or have a clear idea of what they're getting into to feel a sense of equilibrium within themselves. So in order to feel a sense of peace, internal sensory peace, they need to have some sort of routine, like it's a necessity. So everyone can have routines, but the way that it's metabolized within SI users is different fundamentally.
Yeah. So with SI users, I would say it's more system from a comfort standpoint, as in with NTs, it's like results oriented. Like the system is result oriented and not so much comfort. And you can pretty much tell because I think a lot of NTJs are going to be looking at the best way to do something, like the best system, or like the best, like most practical way to get something done. As in like a STJ, it's kind of like they have a system, but it's like just for comfort, for them to make themselves feel good, or that type of thing. Like my system can change. If the system required that I was uncomfortable, I'd be okay with it as long as the results are there.
Yeah. Because if SJs don't have routines or some sort of anchor in their life, they start to go to extroverted intuition. And so they brainstorm negative possibilities too. So it gives them a sense of comfort to have routine so they don't go into negative NE.
Yeah. Wonderful insight, Joyce.
I didn't realize that, but I guess that makes sense.
That is wonderful insight there. Anything else you guys got?
I don't think so, man.
All right, Joyce, it was actually absolute pleasure to have you on here. Thank you. I hope you guys figure out ways to find your type. Joyce does have her services. We have ours as well. Like we said, we're doing still free typing services. All you have to do is just message Cody and we'll try to get that done. But Joyce, as you see from her background, she's very thorough. So reach out to her. Joyce, how much do you charge? You tell the
I charge $85 for a session.
And where can they find that?
On my website, so I have a Calendly link underneath my video descriptions. Yeah, and feel free to purchase or to contribute to Mercer's typing sessions too, because when you support the type community, you're supporting your local content creators too, so that they can continue to make content. So yeah, support all your favorite creators so that they are able to sustain themselves.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. Yeah, Joyce, we'll have to do this again. You have a great day, and thank you again. I know your brother's in town, right? And you have to spend time with him. So thank you again, and you guys have a great day.
Thanks again, Joyce. Have a good one.
Right.